everyone. Welcome to the Overseas Famous Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Owens. We have a great show for you this week. We are joined by NBA legend Michael Cooper, who, in my memory, was one of the first players that got me into the NBA, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Really got me into basketball and made me turn into a player. So we have a lot to discuss with that. We have a great show. Raj is with us again, head of Loot Mogul. Raj, thank you guys. Michael, Raj, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Oh, honored to be here. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, same here. Honored to be here.
So the biggest thing we'll talk first, we'll go into the Loot Mogul world, and we talked a little bit about this. So as like when we talk with Raj, as the head of Loot Mogul, why would NBA legends like Michael benefit from a platform like Loot Mogul?
Yeah, so we are talking about metaverse, right? So especially people like legendary people like Michael, right? They have tremendous reach worldwide, not just in US, but worldwide. There are fans, Lakers fans, they are Michael Cooper's fan, and Web3 is really a platform or a metaverse. Sports metaverse is a new way of reaching out to all your fan base. And that's where you can have an in-person conversation with Coop. You can have their avatars created, and the Coop avatars can be used by people for gaming. The Coop can be a coach teaching worldwide audience how to be the greatest defensive player, right? So that would be where people in not only US, but in Europe, in India, in Asia, many parts of the world, Coop can be teaching some of the key defensive moves, especially if you are in a high school athlete, college athlete. So the objective of really Loot Mogul is to really give the power back to all the athletes. We obviously go by the statement that this is a platform created by athletes for athletes, and especially getting again, people like Coop really get into the metaverse and engage with their fan base, right? So this is so that's one of the key things that we focused on, and we are thrilled to have Michael Coop, we have Lisa Leslie, we have Carlos Boozer, we have a lot of NBA legends that are basketball legends that are part of Loot Mogul, and we're just thrilled to have Michael Coop on this call.
And Kevin, you know what I'd like to add? I'm all new to this. I'm an old school guy. I'm still fighting the computer and all the electronic technology that we have today. But I think Raj makes a great point. It keeps players like myself and Carlos Boozers, for the young generation, it keeps us relevant. And I think kids can understand who we are, although they didn't see us. Their grandfather or their father probably saw us play and now trying to tell them. So, you know, the one thing I'm super excited to be part of Loot Mogul and the metaverse, and I'm still learning the terminologies of a lot of things. But Raj has been very good at staying on top of me. But, you know, this is a fun way for kids to interact with us, to stay in touch with us, and it's an opportunity for us to help younger players and people understand, because when they connect with us, we can, you know, talk about what we have going on personal in our life that could help them in their life.
When I think about the technological advances that have occurred, it is crazy to think that, you know, Michael, you've been coaching for a long time. You obviously played an amazing career. But with coaching, we're always very hands-on. So when you expand something that now you're coaching kids who might be in a foreign country, but you're getting the same message across, how important is that to be able to expand your reach to so far just like being in your home, being able to expand and teach the game of basketball and teach the right defensive positions to people all over the world?
That's for me, Kevin, the most exciting part about it is that we can reach Africa worldwide with this and still get our point of view. You know, defense is played differently now. I think defense is more like team defense. Well, I think us growing up, players such as myself, Dennis Rodman, Carlos Boozer, people like that, learn the one-on-one way. So if we can reach out to these kids through the metaverse and have them play our avatar. Am I saying that right? Play our avatar or whatever. whatever. I'm still getting in there, but I think it's a way for us to reach and pass on our messages, not only our skills, but the message we have to help them in the true student athletes in whatever aspect of their life that they're not necessarily having problems with, but we can enhance that. So I'm truly enjoying it. You got so many players in the NBA, WNBA, NFL, and college involved with this right now that I'm waiting to learn more. I remember the rotary phone when you have to turn the phone like that. Now you punch. I'm from that era. So now this is a whole new era for me. And as a senior citizen, I'm getting to learn about what all this is about.
Going into almost the technological advances and what has happened over just the past few years. And now we talk about going into the NBA and this all these different changes that they're implementing. I mean, I watch baseball a lot, and I'm seeing the change, and they're speeding up the game, and all these changes within the game. How do you think the NBA has evolved in terms of as a brand for everyone? How do you think it's involved, and what do you think the future of the NBA would look like, in your opinion?
Well, I think with Loot Mogul and the things that they're doing, they're only expanding the NBA. When I came in the NBA, the three-point shot was just it wasn't a threat shot. It was something to loosen the defense up so you can go inside. Well, European players totally changed that aspect of the NBA and made it a three-point game. The big guys are shooting it. So I see the brand of the NBA is only going to get bigger and better. I think the next thing that you might see is a four-point shot because, again, players are shooting so far out. You got to give them an extra point for that shot. I wouldn't be surprised to see them raise the rim. It's at 10 feet now. I could see it going to 11. And, because the players only get bigger, faster, stronger, and quicker, the game has to change. Don't be surprised if they widen the court or lengthen the court. Something is going to happen because, again, the players are totally dominating this. But, again, it's fan happy. It's fan favorite. The fans are getting a lot out of this. And I think and Raj can expand on this a little bit, what he's doing with Loot Mogul, how that can even enhance our brand as individual players as well as the league.
No, that's exactly correct, right? So we are expanding the reach of NBA worldwide, right? Especially there is people in Africa or India or Asia or any part of the world, right? There is a lot of digitization that is happening. And this is a new way of engaging athletes and fan base and also promoting the league worldwide. So to me, that's the bigger advantage is that we are growing the user base. Like soccer is still number one, but to me, basketball is the most fun game, right, in my view, than soccer, right? So in that case, you are literally taking people from all parts of the world, engaging in metaverse, pushing them to engage with real athletes, real brands, and also inviting them to even create leagues. Like NBA can potentially have a league in India, for example, right? And then they can be drafting out from that geolocation. And that can all happen with especially Coop and many of the legends talking to all this fan base, right? And that's one thing that we truly believe. This is world was flat already, but now world is expanding.
It is funny to think if the NBA expands and does all of this, and we were talking about the 11-foot rim, that would have negated me as a player completely because I could barely. The 10-foot was good enough for me. I was getting where I needed to with the 10-foot rim. If you moved it up
Kevin,
a foot,
could you touch the rim? I
was a pretty decent dunker in my time. Like I could.
Okay, so 11 feet wouldn't be a problem for you.
I could jump a little bit, but I'm 6'10", so like getting my 7 foot. I just think I wasn't the most athletically gifted human being, but I was 6'10". So 11-foot rim. That's just you might as well just called it a career on me. So talking a little bit about the expansion, and you played obviously 12 NBA seasons. You were a 5-time NBA champion with the Lakers. What went into your decision to head overseas? You went to Italy your last year playing. What was the decision making with that as we talk about the expansion of the game of basketball globally?
Well, Dr. Buss, the late, great Dr. Buss, the owner of the Lakers, in 1990 came up to me and he took me out. And at that time, I was 34, 35 years old. And he said, Coop, I got a couple options for you because, again, things, we had lost to the Pistons in 89 and, Pat Riley, we could see things were changing and teams were only getting better. and younger. And at that time, Dr. Buss offered me, he said, Coop, you can either retire, and if you retire, I got a place in the front office for you, or we can trade you, or we can let you go to free agent. You can go wherever you want to go. And I couldn't see myself, Kevin and Raj, after everything we had built up and gone through and the excitement we've had playing at the Forum and winning the 5 championships and going to the finals 9 times, I couldn't see myself going to Indiana or San Antonio or Boston, God forbid, or Philadelphia and coming back to the Forum and tear that down. So I opted to retire. And just as I did that, my agent got a call because I don't know how everybody knew, but San Antonio, Boston Celtics, the Sixers, and the Il Messaggero, a team that Brian Shaw and Danny Ferry had played for in Rome, they called, and I took that option because, again, that got me. I didn't have to come back and compete with the Lakers, but I could still play. And I was almost at the end, Kevin, of my career because practice was always important for me. Mm-hmm. So I was getting to the point where I didn't want to go to practice, mm-hmm. and that was the key for me. So I chose that option. Great option for me, though, because I had a wonderful time in Europe. Playing over in Rome, a very biblical place, and just experiencing that and eating food, the lot of pasta. First time over there, they drank wine with the meal. We had a team meal. We drank wine. Well, I got drunk before the game. So I had to, no, they wouldn't put wine. So I had either sparkling water or just natural water. But a great experience, and being over there taught me a lot. I got to learn a lot of the new players that are now coming into the league, seeing those guys at the time that were coming in, and just getting a chance to see what international basketball was all about.
I think when I talk to overseas players, and my experience, the playing overseas was so important because, like you just said, it really gives you a different perspective on life. Now, we play basketball, and basketball was our lives. But when you head overseas and you see a completely different culture, like I always say, there's nothing that prepares you for life more than traveling, where you're able to see different people and different cultures and how people interact and how things are different. I always think that's so important. And if people in this world traveled and understood each other's cultures, we would have a far less conflict than we have now because everyone would just be able to appreciate life as opposed to seeing and spotting the differences. And I always think that's so important when I look at my career playing overseas and what you just said about playing and getting to experience that, especially the wine. I mean, they don't prepare you for things like that. All of a sudden, they're just like, here, drink it, because everything's supposed to be in moderation. We don't do moderation well.
But you know what, Kevin, I came, from a single family, my single parent family. My dad left my mom when I was 4 years old. So I grew up with my grandmother. She had 10 kids. They had kids. So I grew up in a family of like 15, 16 people. And so you had to get to dinner, but if you were late, then you weren't going to get too much to eat. But what I tell kids now is that, you know what, had it not been for basketball, and in this case, football, baseball, anything sports-wise that you can see now, soccer as well, that gives you an opportunity to travel and see the world. And had it not been for basketball, I never would have had that chance to do that. I had an opportunity to go as a junior college player. I went to Hawaii for the first time. No way my family had that kind of money to pay for me back in 1977 to travel over there. So I tell kids, you know what? Use basketball before basketball use you. That's why it's important for young people to become student athletes. That word is there for a reason. It's not athlete student, it's student athlete, because one day basketball, baseball, whatever you enjoy doing, track, whatever it is, you're eventually going to get too old to do it, get too bored to do it, or you might get injured doing it. And what you have left is what's up here between your ears, and that'll take you a lot further than a basketball, baseball, or football will. But yes, I enjoyed the many places I've traveled around the world, and getting ready to go some more places with the retired players thing. I'm getting ready to go to. I've never been to Africa. Getting ready to go to Africa in about 3 weeks.
That's great.
Yeah, but all through basketball.
Use basketball before it uses you. It might be my favorite expression now. I've never heard that before, and that is exactly it. I don't think there's anything that could be said when we talk about players who are thinking about what basketball is and what their life is going to be after basketball. Always use basketball before basketball uses you is incredible. I'm going to put that on a T-shirt and just wear it around. I'll give you credit,
what my
of course.
percentage, Kevin? Raj, can we put that into the metaverse? Can I put that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We should.
Look at that.
We should definitely create a avatars hoodie with that statement. Yeah.
We're wheeling and dealing today. We are wheeling and dealing. So,
and I'm learning. That's the thing I enjoy. I'm actually understanding what's going on with this whole process. I love it. Again, Raj has been so gracious and real kind of handing me with kid gloves as we learn this process, because I didn't know anything about it. But I'm very, very excited about the whole thing.
So I was introduced to you, and this is a fun story because I'm 42, so I grew up in the 80s, and I watched basketball, but basketball wasn't as widely televised as it was back then. I guess it was 1986, I believe, when Dazzling Dunks and Basketball Bloopers came out. And I don't think I've watched a video. To this day, I don't think I've watched anything as much as I watched that. And me and my brothers, we would put it on, we would watch it, and you were like, they have you ever seen Dazzling Dunks and Basketball Bloopers?
I saw that, yes.
So they did the whole thing where someone would do something, and then they would freeze it, and then they would give you, like, it would say, like, Coop. And I remember you blocked the shot, and you were so like it was just so businesslike. And I remember you blocked the shot, and you came down, and your face was just stone faced, like nothing, like this is my job. And I took that so personally, like in terms of, I remember watching, and like Kareem did the whole like thing where he had that, and there was all these guys had like funny things, and yours was so serious. And I remember I took that, and that was something that stayed with me. And I said, like, I want to play like that. I want to be defensive. I want to play defensive game. Like, I want to D people up. I don't want anyone to be able to score on me. And that was what you were known for. You were known for your exceptional defense. So can you share tips for those younger generations of who want to improve their defense? Because, I mean, not for nothing, but when I watch the NBA now, defense isn't a high priority. Wow, I think the guys are just getting so much better that how are you going to be able to stay with them? But those little strategies that you had to become a good basketball defender, what strategies did you think of that could help the next generation?
Thank you, Kevin. I think you have to go to Loot Mogul and play my avatar, and then you have to get in there and kind of like hang out. See, I'm getting Raj. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, that's a very good plug.
You have to play the avatar. No, I think the one thing for me, Kevin, and again, thank you for those words, man, because it, basketball was always a love and a passion for me, and people used to always tell me that I couldn't play it because I was too skinny. What people don't realize, I was 6'6", 6'7". I played at 174 pounds. And some people would look at that as a disadvantage, but I use it as an advantage because Larry Bird or Artis Gilmore or the late, great Bob Lanier, they couldn't set a good pick on me because I was able to get by them because I was so thin. But for me, blocking shots was my way to contribute to the team. I know when I first got with the Lakers, they had Norm Nixon, Jamal Wilkes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when I walked in Loyola Marymount. 1980, you bring in Magic, then you bring in Byron Scott, then you bring in James Worthy, and the list goes on and on. So there wasn't enough shots to go around. So Jerry West used to tell me, Coop, if you're gonna make this team, you got to do it through the defense. And I'll never forget that. And that's kind of been like my staple, and I hung my hat on that. And I tried to make that my forte. And in the process, I tried to encourage our teammates, when people weren't playing defense, hey, you guys got to play defense. And, people look at Showtime, and they will look at Showtime as an offensive juggernaut. But people don't realize we were a very, very good defensive team. I think Worthy was good, could guard 2 or 3 positions. Byron can guard 2 or 3 positions. Magic wasn't a good one-on-one defender, but he was a great team defender when we needed double teaming on Robert Parrish or Bird or something like that. So defense for me was always first and foremost. And I saw that, it could make a little name out of that. And the one thing I've always wanted to do when I got into the NBA is be on that all defensive team, first team every time. And I strive for that. And luckily in 1987, I was able to become Defensive Player of the Year. But in blocking shots, I enjoyed it. And I was having a good time, Kevin. You may not have saw it on my face, but I was really enjoying blocking shots. But that was kind of like I hung my hat on that. And I like to think I was pretty good at it. Try to get my son to do it. He said, Dad, defense is nothing. It's about offense now.
Well, going into that, kind of transitioning that, you played with or against some of the best players in NBA history. When you think about that practice game, who was the most difficult player to guard that you had to match up with?
The most difficult player, and I always say this, even though he has said what he said about me, Larry Bird. And the reason for that is because Larry, you have to pay attention to him the whole time. You know, I've guarded Michael Jordan, George Gervin, Dr. J, Dale Ellis, just to name a few. And when those guys gave the ball up, they would kind of like stand to the side and watch, or Jordan would grab his long shorts and bend over for, 4 or 5 seconds. Larry, you couldn't do that. When he passed the ball, he was going to either go set a down pick to somebody. He was going to go get an offensive rebound. He was going to get a deflect. He was going to do something on the offensive end if he wasn't shooting the ball to affect the game or affect that a moment. So for me, he was the hardest because you always had to play him every offensive possession, whether he had the basketball or not. But as I say that, there was another player that a lot of people have a tendency to forget. And if this kid had not blown out his Achilles heel, Andrew Toney, Southwest Louisiana, played with the Sixers.
The Boston Strangler.
What people don't realize, this guy was 6'4", and you got to remember, when Philly and Boston were playing to see who was coming out the East, they used to call this guy the Boston Strangler, because Boston and, the late, great Dennis Johnson, my best friend, was a good defense. That guy was hard to guard, man. He could get his shot off, and he could score with the best, and he was tough. So, I would say Larry, but there have been so many. The late, great Mike Mitchell, who passed away with the San Antonio Spurs. Mike was about 6'8", had a nice shot. So there's many, many players, but Larry stands out among the best. But, the one thing I love is that I caught Michael Jordan when he was more athletic. He was younger. Michael Jordan got better as he got older, man. And that's the one thing that people don't realize about that. And as you see in the game today in LeBron, when the great players, as well as the late Kobe, players that lose their athleticism a little bit and they get later in the years, in the 30s, they start refining their game and defining their game. And they start moving closer to the basket. Well, Jordan started posting up. You see LeBron now. He'll shoot some threes, but most of his points are coming inside. So, that's the joy as a defensive player. I like playing against great offensive players in the NBA. And you can see those same defensive moves on my avatar in Loot Mogul. If you play me and get in there, you can play me against Lisa Leslie. You can play me against some of the other NBA greats.
Thank you. And that's where I think the fantasy world of this metaverse, right? Sports, right? Like, imagine you like Coop defending Larry Bird, right? In metaverse, right? That's like a mind-blowing, and especially if you want to now add the mix of LeBron in it. So now you have LeBron James, Larry Bird, and Coop, right? And then we can add maybe Anthony Davis, right? Or something like that, right? So you can create all those fantasy games or the matchmaking. And ultimately, that's what this entire Web3 is all about. It's not about just the current players, but also the legacy legendary people like Coop doing a fantasy match against LeBron. What if Coop was playing against LeBron? I know both are Lakers, but what if there was a match like that? That would be mind-blowing. So to me, that's the power of engagement. And I truly believe all of us are blessed to be part of this great journey.
And Raj,
Raj, I have a question, Raj. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No.
Right. So as more players sign up and we get more players involved into the metaverse and stuff like that, would there be a possibility of a Michael Cooper, Steph Curry matchup somewhere in there, something like that? Because, I played against his father, Dale, and Dale was, what people don't realize, Dale Curry was just as good a shooter as his son. Didn't shoot as far out, but very, very consistent. So is there a chance that Coop might be able to guard Steph Curry or Klay Thompson?
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing, right? Especially both California teams, right? Lakers versus Warriors, right? That would be an amazing matchup. But yeah, that's the future. To me, that's what the Web3 is. That's what about metaverse sports is. And to me, the legacy is we are creating now these fantasy matches would be something we are thrilled to create in future.
I love just speaking of Steph Curry, because you talked about Larry Bird and Raj, you're talking to being able to create these matchups in the metaverse. So Michael, what do you think separates, and I'm going to say something, and I figure we have, me now, we have a good relationship. So I can say this now as we get deeper, but I grew up I live right outside of Philadelphia, so I grew up a diehard 76ers fan. So I didn't want you to just click automatically off and be like, done. But I grew up a diehard 76ers fan. So when I look at like teams, especially in this NBA, and there's so many good teams, but what do you think separates a championship team from those who don't quite make it? Is it talent? Is it like the chemistry? Or is it coaching? What do you think is the thing that separates those NBA champions from the guys who are not really contenders but more pretenders?
Well, I'm gonna say this first, Kevin, and you know what? I'm sorry for you to say that you're a Sixer fan. I want you to know you guys would have gone championship-less had it not for it, but they let Moses Malone headbutt Kareem to death and not call the fouls, the offensive fouls. That's the only reason that they got that one championship. Now, with that being said, and I got that off my shoulders, I think I think you hit it on the head, Kevin. Is that I think it's chemistry and everybody buying in. You know, obviously the coach is going to give you the game plan, the format, and I think the players have established themselves as who's go-to and what kind of offense and defense you're going to do. But everybody has to buy into it. And I think from day one, when I joined the Lakers, and I see this difference as we were going through, and that's why it was always like people wanted to see the Celtics and the Lakers. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson changed basketball when they came in. And when you have that, when I know I'm on the court and if I'm open, I'm going to get the basketball, that makes me buy into the other aspects of it. Playing hard on defense, running back on offense, whole concept. And it goes from player one all the way down to that last player. When you see players buy in, then you get spectacular championship moments like you got the first time Golden State Warriors won. Kevin, Raj, I always said there's no team that can win a championship shooting jump shots. I just didn't believe that. And the Warriors did it because they moved the ball, they got good open shots, and they didn't have a big guy. Because, you know, coming up in the 80s, you had to have a big guy because Pat Riley always said championships are won in the paint. They're not won on the perimeter. So Golden State broke that mold, but they did it with the concept that Bird and Magic made passing the basketball fun and everybody buying in. It's not about me, it's about we. And it's not about my shot, it's about the best shot for the team. And I think that's the difference that you see in today's game. You look at your Sixers team this year, and, you know, I love Embiid. I just do not believe that they can be successful with him scoring on the outside all the time. But I see lately in some games, he's starting to get down in there, and you got to take that beating. If you want to win a championship, you got to take those lumps because those 3 points are just as good as that one that's 28, 27, 9 feet out. So when you see the Warriors, when you see the great teams go and win championships as a whole, Milwaukee Bucks, I think that's the difference is when people are buying in and players understand their role and they play their role to the maximum.
And you said it. I mean, when we talk about Embiid or we talk about, you know, the best, that superstar on that team, but like it's the other guys around it. And, you know, Embiid can go out and get his 40, but what are the other guys going to do? Who's going to step up in that position? And when we talk about you had Magic, you had Kareem, but those players who came in and played that terrific role and were able to excel from a good team to a championship team like you did with the Lakers is great. And when you talk about that, you won multiple championships as a player. You also won multiple championships as a coach. So when I always think about it, like it's fun as a player, but it's really cool as a coach because there's a lot that you did to build. You were more of a building block. So what do you think which championship was more special to you, as a player or as a coach?
As a player, it was fun because you could get out there and do something about it. But I think, to me, the gratifying point is as a coach, and I know Steve Kerr will understand when I say this, when you have played the game at the highest level and you've won championships at the highest level, and then you have to sit in that chair and you can't go out there and in your mind, your philosophy, and getting 10, 12, 15 players to buy into that system. And before that, I got with the D League, and we won a championship. Guys that are like a step away from making it to the A, and they bought in. I mean, had a lot of great players, and they bought into the system, and we won, as well as in the WNBA. And I think, to me, that's the most gratifying moment on getting players to understand what it takes to win and how the things that you have to do, boxing out, make the extra pass, be on time, come to practice hard, hard. That's the fun part for me.
And your transition, how difficult was that? We talked about how you went to Italy during that last year and how, it was a great experience for you. And then you transitioned into coaching. What were some of the challenges you faced, that initial transition from player to coach? Was that a difficult one where you had to kind of completely change your mindset to become a coach as opposed to the player?
Getting players to understand how to play hard and how to practice. I think the most challenging time I had when I became a player is I was with the assistant coach with the Denver Nuggets. And that Denver Nuggets team had Earl Boykins, Kenyon Martin, Carmelo Anthony. I mean, they had a legitimate whip, but the guys didn't want to practice. You have to tell them, hey, man, we got to do this, we got to do that. I am not a big fan of this load management because people watch you, they come to see a player play. If you're not hurt, man, everybody's tired. But you get paid to play basketball. And now I'm hearing that you're trying to cut the 82 games down to 60. Why? Why? These guys flying charter now. Take the road we had to go. We had to get up, Kevin. When we played, we had to get up the next morning at 6 a.m., catch the first thing moving. And we got, if you weren't one of the lucky ones to get first class, you had to sit in coach. Now they reimbursed you for the difference of that. And then you had to fly, get on the bus, get your luggage at the airport, get on the bus, go to the hotel, sleep for a couple of hours, and then come play that night on back-to-backs. These guys leave the night after. So again, but I understand the whole concept of the new player, and they need rest so that they can give you their maximum performances. But, that was the hardest thing for me, to get the players to understand to play hard and to play together as a former player to a coach.
No, you hit it on the head. It is a very different, and, you had your era, and then I started playing in the early 2000s, and I think it's changed dramatically because especially overseas, like we always talk about overseas basketball, there is no load management. If they came in load management and you walked up to your owner and were like, hey, I'm not going to play tonight, my knee hurts, they'd be like, here's a flight home. Like there's no load management overseas. And I think that's something where people just don't understand how the game used to be. And I think overseas basketball is kind of still in that era where it's like, listen, we're going to grind it out. We're going to keep going. And I think when you do that, it makes you a stronger player. It makes you a stronger human being. When you move on from your playing career, it makes you a little stronger than you would have been if you're just kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to sit this one out. But like we said, it's a business. They're trying to put the best product out there. So really, what is the answer?
Overseas in Italy, everybody, men and women, when you greet your teammates, you give them a kiss. You kind of like do all that. I caught mono when I was over there. I don't know who I caught it from or whatever, but no, I caught mono. And Kevin, I went to the doctor. I went to their doctor. He goes, "Oh, Coop, just rest." And he diagnosed it. He misdiagnosed it because I was like feeling very fatigued, had a hard time getting up. Anyway, so I go to an American doctor. They tell me, Coop, you got mono. Light case, but you're going to be okay. You have to take 2 weeks off. Kevin, after the first week, they were talking about sending me home. They didn't take my paycheck because I wasn't playing. Oh, you're not going to play. We're not going to pay you. And you got to go home. And they was going to bring another player for me. I said, no, I'm okay. So I came back about 4 days earlier than I should have, but I kind of came along a slow pace. So, yeah, you are so right with that, Kevin. Raj, a question for you. There's no load management in the metaverse, is there?
No, no, exactly. Yeah. Especially if you think about the gamers, right? Who are playing all this and learning. I mean, for them, they may play for hours. So there is no restriction. Obviously, legally, I think after 4 hours or 6 hours, you have to pause the gamer. But ultimately, there's no restriction on how many hours you play. But this is the perfect example. Like Coop has so much international experience, right? To me, that's where the community can benefit here tremendously with all his advice on being a best defensive player, not just sitting around. Like even Coop may have some ideas as a coach, especially transitioning from a player to a coach, would be around how do you guard somebody like Steph Curry, like who's always running around, right? So that would be an amazing concept of the defensive academy. That's something that Coop and I have talked about that we want to build out inside the metaverse, is that you need to show those moves and techniques and thought process, because to me, like any sports, right? but especially with NBA or basketball, it's more about mental toughness than physical, right? So it's all about mental. If you're mentally tough, then you can overcome your physical capabilities, right? So that's where the mental toughness coaching, and even with Lisa that we have talked about, briefly about, is something that we really want to promote through the metaverse, through Web3 gaming, and really start bringing all these nuggets of advices, like this tremendous advice that Coop can share it with the fan base.
Raj, that's what I was going to ask is as we in the metaverse, if somebody say he's a gamer and he wants to coach, would they be able to contact me and I could reach them through that and kind of give them advice on what routes to take or what avenues, which way to go?
That's correct. Yeah. So it's more than just playing the games, but somebody can be a gamer, can be a coach, a path for a coach. Then there will be a meta conversation you can have, which can be as simple as the video call, a phone call, or even avatar level conversation. Now, eventually, that person may even want to see you in person, right? And there's many places where we are also finding out many of the colleges and high schools, they want people like Coop attend and give a one-day training session. Like it can be in Dubai, it can be in Qatar, it can be in India, right? Doesn't matter what the locations are. But those like a one-day coaching would be very critical for all these athletes, and that would be something can be delivered not only in metaverse but also in real life. It all starts with physical connection and all the advice that, and even Kevin, you have some of the very good relevant experience internationally. This is just we are just getting started. To me, this entire Web3 gaming is just at a very early stage, infancy stage, and this is just going to grow over the next 10 years.
Right. This is about to change everything about sports as we used to know it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
How you
correct.
can, yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So that's what one of the articles that were recently that was posted on LinkedIn was all about, will metaverse change the sports, like traditional sports, right? Because to me, I think it's going to, like people were talking about esports. Is esports going to replace the professional sports, right? And to me, it's not going to replace. It's just creating a new segment. Same thing with metaverse gaming or Web3 gaming. It's creating a net new segments and really expanding the current user base for NBA, NFL leagues, and pretty much all the major athletes too worldwide, right? So essentially, it's expansion. It will definitely impact long term, but I don't think it's going to shrink the core fan base.
I always look at the gaming was such a big part of, because there's so much downtime, especially when you're overseas. There's so much downtime. So having to fill that downtime, and the metaverse, and having this web game, all of this incredible opportunities for these athletes to be able to interact with fans is terrific. Because I know even like video games they were there, but they weren't as big as they are now. So I brought my guitar over when I play, and I would just play the guitar. I mean, I'm terrible at guitar. Michael, I know you obviously have a passion for music. Was that something that kind of started with you just, sitting around your downtime, just being like, all right, let me tinker with this a little bit?
You know what, you're right, Kevin. Like that old saying goes, music soothes a savage beast. So when that beast starts roaring up, you kind of play a guitar. And for me, I love jazz. I listen to Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, that 60s era. So for me, the one thing that I got an opportunity when I played overseas is I went music shopping, and I would go downtown in the center and go to the music places. And this is when I was doing vinyl back then, because I could still have put my little thing on there. And so I collected about my record collection is very extensive. So yeah, music was something that I always kind of like I would get into, still do now, even more so when I'm riding around. But that's what whatever vices that these young kids have, and I'm trying to turn my son onto that. Actually, I have him playing the piano, my 17-year-old. So music is a great and a complement to what you want to do. It kind of kills the stress a little bit.
Now, last big question: what do we always talk about for a legend like yourself? for younger players who are maybe overseas or just starting to try to get into professional basketball, what advice would you give if their expectations are hey, I want to one day make it, I want to put on an NBA jersey? What advice would you have to those young players?
My thing for them, Kevin and Roz, is I have this concept I call Coop's 5Ds. And at one point in time, those are my report card. That's why it's so important for me to get kids to understand. That's a real true story. Get them to understand that's why you're called a student athlete, because one doesn't go well without the other one. You can be a good student and you go on and take that into anything else. But if you want to play sports and be good academically, you're a student athlete. And my 5Ds are determination, dedication, desire, discipline, and decision making. Those 5Ds can help you in any aspect of your life to be a good student. Be the doctor that took care of LeBron. They make millions of dollars. Their just name is not in the life, but they make a good, comfortable living. So those 5Ds you can apply to your religious life, your academic life, your everyday life, whatever you want to do. Determination, dedication, desire, discipline, and decision making can help you get over a lot of humps, and it'll keep you rolling.
Well, to wrap this up, Michael, I just legitimately, I would not be sitting here doing a podcast about overseas basketball if I hadn't played, and I wouldn't have been able to play if I didn't watch Dazzling Dunks and Basketball Bloopers, and if I hadn't watched you block that shot and just give me that inspiration of being like, yeah, that's what I like. Like, that is great. You really inspired me, and I really appreciate
Thank you,
even though it's this generation of players that, and I'm not the only one. There's players all over the world who are inspired by you, but I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting your effort, your ability, and your defensive prowess to show those guys like me who like to get grinded out and get a little dirty in there, that there is a place for us. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you hopping on today.
Thank you, Kevin. And everybody needs a defensive player. But in the same respect, I'd like to thank Raj for inspiring me to get involved with the metaverse and Loot Mogul. Raj, I have learned so much from you. I learned a lot today that I can now sit down and educatedly talk about this. And we're going to get more people involved in this. Thank you, Raj.
Yeah. I can't wait to get Kareem on board, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dr. J, all those legends, right? I'm
working on him.
Yeah, the future matchmaking, it's mind-blowing. Yeah, thank you again, Coop. You have been amazing. Yes. I took a lot of notes. 5Ds are something that I want to create a avatar T-shirt for you.
Okay. Coop's 5Ds. Not his report card. Those are defensive stats.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, guys. Raj, Coop, I really appreciate you guys hopping on, talking about Loot Mogul, talking about the career and this great synergy that exists between the metaverse and athletes. It's inspiring, and it's great to see. And we appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
This has been the Overseas Famous Podcast. I'm Kevin Owens. We'll see you guys next week.